So, Barry, let me get this straight. Darren says you're saying that trinket you're carrying with you is in fact a device that amplifies your physical attributes, which is powered by the magic all around us. Right, I answer. And you're planning to use this device to fight the other mages that joined this tournament. Correct. Darren, Kate, and I are sitting in a circle on the rocky floor of a cave we found near the northern mountains. Our trip here has been rather uneventful, save for a few more dead bodies we've seen along the way. Darren has gotten out of his heavy armor since we arrived and is now wearing more comfortable clothes. Kate, I think this afternoon's events have been too much for the poor boy. He's gone completely delirious. You think he could knock some sense into our dear companion here? No, Kate answers curtly. Because you won't be bothered to? Because he's right. The device he's carrying is indeed a stat booster, and most of those stats are meant to amplify his physical attributes. What? Weren't you the one saying I shouldn't trust him a few hours ago? Why are you defending him now? I'm not defending anyone. I've known the true function of these devices for a long time. I don't need to trust him in order to know he's telling the truth. Fine. I give up. You win, Barry. So what are these stats of yours anyway? I show him my device's screen where all of the 9 stats are shown. Darren gives the device a long, pondering look until he decides to speak. Alright, here's my 2 copper pieces. I think that if we're to keep traveling in our current formation, and if that device of yours really does what you say it does, then what would help us all the most would be if you maxed that observation stat. Observation? Why observation of all things? I ask him. Because if you're good at observing details, you're far more likely to detect illusions. Usually the best way to know you're in an illusion is to notice something minor that changes in the environment around you. No illusion is perfect. Sometimes there's a few leaves that disappear from the ground. Some other times the sun is higher in the sky than it was before you entered the illusion. I'm really bad at noticing these kinds of things. Usually I only see it when it's too late. That hasn't killed me yet. But then again, I've never had to fight against the strongest mages in the world before. Even if you max all your physical attributes, I doubt you'll ever be on par with me and Kate, let alone all the other mages that joined this tournament. But with good observation skills, you might well end up saving our lives when we enter our first illusion. Darren pauses. Well, anyway, that's just my opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt. That little trinket is yours to use, so feel free to do whatever you want with it. However, I want you to decide now and tell us what you're going to do with, so that we can prepare our tactics accordingly. We can't afford to go into our next fight without a plan. No. Baiting won't always work. Fighting isn't his thing, so I guess we will do that. After taking some time to consider my options, I give Darren my answer. I want to focus on helping the two of you by observing the battlefield and providing tactical information. A wise decision, so I'm guessing your main 2 attributes will be hearing and observation then. But that's not enough. If the enemy sees you just standing there, they'll focus on you first, like they did this time. You'll need to have at least 1 defensive stat prepared, like toughness, reflexes, or premonition to be safe. Kate and I won't be able to defend you all the time. Darren shifts his gaze towards Kate. Ooh. Sorry. A little nauseous. Now for the 2 of us. As you said after our last battle, I'd rather not fight against weapon enhancers unless I have no choice. That's why I'm going to ask you to take care of them when the time comes. Kate nods at Darren as he continues to talk. As for myself, I'm particularly good against elementalists, summoners, and shapeshifters, so I'll focus on them if we meet any. He's speaking about mage specializations. Most mages will pick a certain type of magic and dedicate their life to perfecting it instead of trying to learn as many spells as possible. Weapon enchanters use their magic to make their gear as strong as possible, since they mostly rely on their weapons for combat. They will likely also train themselves in at least 1 martial art. Elementalists are mages born with incredible talent at manipulating one of the 4 elements. Water, air, fire, or earth. However, they are born with the affinity for only 1 element, and they usually have problems mastering other spells, since they rely solely on their talent for casting their elemental spells and generally have little knowledge of the arcane arts. Summoners are mages who concentrate on summoning other creatures to fight for them. Since they leave them vulnerable to surprise attacks, they will usually also focus on defensive spells to keep them safe while their summoned creatures fight for them. Shapeshifters, on the other hand, go for a more personal approach, transforming themselves into other creatures instead of summoning them. This solves the vulnerability problem that summoners have, but it also limits their powers. As they are unable to cast other spells while transformed. What about you, Kate? Darren asks. Do you have any weaknesses against any particular kinds of magic? Yes, she answers. But you don't plan on sharing them with us? I do not, Darren shrugs. Suit yourself. Well, I think that's all we need to discuss for now. Time for bed. Barry and I will take first watch. Come on, Barry. I follow Darren out of the cave, and together we start climbing the mountain to reach a good vantage point. The moon is high in the sky, and the stars are bright. We won't have any trouble spotting enemies if they approach. As we stand guard, Darren starts telling me stories about his travels around the world and the adventures he's had. He tells me of the 50-foot giants that live in the far east of the northern continent. He tells me how he's cured the dreaded Ichnar plague of the eastern continent by himself, and how he defeated the green wyvern of the north. Listening to him tell me about all these stories made me realize why I defended him instinctively from Cutthroat Dave yesterday. Even though I never really thought about it before, I guess I always kind of admired him. He's like all those heroes from the fairy tales I used to read when I was a kid, and he's a living example of what I've always aspired to become. I've been in a lot of places over the years, Barry, but everywhere I go it's always the same. The weak are oppressed by the strong. The few are killed by the many. Everywhere I go, there's people dying from starvation, plague, war, or some monster invasion. I've seen death all my life, but I never get used to it. Seeing all those dead bodies just lying there, lifeless yesterday, made me feel an intense pain in my chest. It was as though I could feel the suffering of each of them and the fear that went through their hearts as they took their last breath. What about you, Barry? What did you feel when you saw all those dead people?
Nothing.
Well, I felt sorry for them, but I guess I came here prepared for the worst. I knew I'd be seeing a lot of death along my way, so I've decided to not let it affect me. Then you are stronger than I am, Barry. Darren pauses for a few seconds to gaze into the distance before he continues. You know, when I heard about this tournament, my first thought was that finally, after a lifetime of good deeds, after a lifetime of trying to make a difference, someone was sending me a sign. I've tried all my life to save the world from misery, but no matter how hard I tried, my efforts were never enough. But with the help of the Magium, maybe, just maybe, I might have a chance. Darren looks at me and notices I'm a little worried. I see no reason why the Magium can't be shared, Barry. Even if I win this tournament, I promise that I will use the power of the Magium to help you achieve your dream. I hope you'll do the same for me if you can. His straightforwardness and his honesty took me by surprise. Of course I will, I tell him, since we both already know which one of us will be winning this tournament. That's the spirit. After yet another pause, Darren decides to change the subject. So how's it going with Kate, then? Are you making any progress with her? I'm not trying to seduce her, Darren. Of course you're not, Darren says in a sarcastic manner. Slowly, Darren's smile fades away from his face and he adopts a more serious tone. Listen, he says. I know your heart is in the right place, but you know as well as I do that women simply can't be born as mages. It's not in their blood. I don't know why she appears different from a normal banshee to you, and I don't know why the banshee inside her hasn't awakened yet. But it's only a matter of time. One day she'll turn into a banshee, and I want you to be prepared when that time comes. Darren takes a small device of his own out of his front pocket and hands it to me. It appears to be a magical transceiver. These devices are mostly used by soldiers when they need to transmit information to each other over short distances without having to shout at one another. I want you to carry this with you at all times. If you're ever in danger, just tap this 3 times and I'll come over to help as fast as I can. Just promise me something, I tell him. Of course. Promise me that you won't try to purify her until you see her transform into a banshee. Darren sighs. You're asking a lot of me, Barry. You should know better than anyone how hard it'll be to stop her when she turns into a banshee. But if it means that much to you, then I'll promise. He pauses. Come on, we should get going. It's time we wake up Kate so she can take a second watch. As we descend towards the cave, my stat device starts beeping. I pull it out of my pocket and I see that I now have 6 more points available to spend. There must have been a big fight somewhere in the vicinity. Oh, hold on. Well, I guess now it's fine. Well, I wanted the ancient language because I didn't get that last time. I know I need observation because I missed something already. He needs me to have something like toughness. Chose hearing maybe. Premonition. I don't know. We're gonna go with observation again. We're gonna hit confirm. I put the device back and enter the cave. We wake up Kate and she goes outside to guard the entrance. As me and Darren go to sleep, I wake up to Kate's voice several hours later. She's whispering, making sure that Darren can't hear us. Wake up, Stillwater, she says. I need your help with something. Wait, you need my help? Be quiet, you'll wake Darren. Yes, I need you to come with me and take a look at something. It won't take you more than a minute. And why would I help you? All you've done is give me a hard time ever since we've met. Because then I'd owe a debt to you, and I always pay my debt. She's being serious. This must be more important to her than she lets on.
No.
Why are you asking this of me and not Darren? He's a legendary mage around here, not me. Because unlike him, you appear to be very knowledgeable in the more obscure intricacies of magic. You don't see many people these days that know how a stat booster works. Plus, I have something I want to ask you in private, so come before we wake up Darren. We exit the cave and head for the trees. The moon is still pretty high up in the sky. It can't have been more than 2 or 3 hours since I went to sleep. As we walk in awkward silence for a few minutes, I figure I might as well try to start a conversation.
Okay. Sippy water.
So how did you come to know the true function of the stat devices? I ask Kate. She gives me a pondering look, probably trying to decide how much of the truth she's willing to disclose to me. The stat boosters were created on this continent. I was born here as well. It is more common for people on this continent to know what these devices do than it is for people in the rest of the world. Wait, you were born here? Didn't you come here as a participant in this tournament? I was born here, but I didn't spend my whole life here. It is not so easy to return here once you've left. However, I use this tournament as a means to come back because I have some unfinished business to attend to. And I'm guessing this unfinished business of yours is somehow related to this thing you wanted me to look at. She doesn't make any comment, but her silence is enough to confirm my hypothesis. Kate decides to completely change the subject instead. She stops in front of me and looks me straight in the eye. There's something that's been bugging me ever since we met yesterday, she says. When you and Darren first saw me, you started whispering between yourselves. For about a minute, you said you were trying to decide whether I was a banshee or not, and Darren said you had already established I wasn't one. She pauses a bit before she continues. The question is why? I decided to seek Darren's help because I fooled myself into thinking someone as kind-hearted as him would not sentence me to death. But now that I've cleared my head and thought about it, I realize how much I put myself at risk by showing myself to him. Why did Darren decide I wasn't a banshee when all the evidence pointed to the contrary? Kate still doesn't trust me. If I tell her I'm the one that convinced Darren to spare her life, she's either going to not going to believe me, or she'll get suspicious of my motives and completely lose her trust in Darren. Maybe she'll believe me if I tell her Darren was the one that decided not to purify her. Darren said he'd met a banshee before. I lied to her. He said he could tell you were different somehow and that he was going to keep an eye on you for the time being. I see, Kate said with relief in her voice. That's all I wanted to ask. Let's keep going then. Wait, why ask me all this? Why not ask Darren directly? Because Darren is the one that knows the white magic, not you. He's the one who would normally want to purify Banshee. I don't want to give him any ideas in case the thought never occurred to him. And why would you believe that I'm telling the truth? Because you're not a very good liar. Your face gives you away. Is that so? Well, in that case, I also have a question for you. You may not be a banshee, but you can't be a mage either. Women can't be born as mages, so what are you? Who says I was born a mage? My mind goes blank for a second while I try to make sure I understood what she said correctly. Hold on. Do you mean to tell me that you were born as a normal human and that you later became a mage? That is exactly what I'm saying. How? Did you get access to the Magium? How did you do it? I must know. I realized too late that I'd let the excitement get the better of me. Kate is looking at me with an expression that shows both bewilderment and a sudden understanding. By the gods, she says, you were telling the truth, weren't you? You really are a human, and you came here in the hopes of becoming a mage? Listen to me. I have no idea what could motivate you enough to go on this suicidal quest, but the only things that you'll find at the end of your journey will be agony and despair. Quit now, and you might still make it out of this alive. You speak to me of agony and despair, but you chose to become a mage. Surely you must understand how I feel about this. I do not, because becoming a mage was never my intention. I have no intention of continuing this conversation either. I gave you a warning. You can choose to heed it, or you can ignore it. This is all I'm willing to say on the subject. Before giving me a chance to respond, she storms ahead. As I rush to follow her, we traveled in a complete silence for the next 10 minutes. As we get further and further away from the cave, I call out to her again. Wait, I tell her. What is it now? We're getting too far away from our cave. What if anyone attacks Darren while he's sleeping? Oh, you don't need to worry about him. Damn you, I'm not leaving my friend behind. When did I ever suggest such a thing? If you're so worried about your dear friend Darren, then by all means go back and check on him. I'll wait for you here. Hesitantly, I start retracing my steps back toward the cave. Once I start walking, however, I get a powerful urge to go the other way. I try again and get the same result. No matter how many times I try, I simply can't keep going in the same direction. I keep turning in the opposite direction, sometimes without even noticing. Is this some sort of spell? In all of my research, I've never read of such things. What did you do? I asked Kate. See, if you would have asked me nicely from the beginning instead of throwing groundless accusations, I would have answered your questions. I guess you'll just have to live without knowing. But as you can clearly see, you don't need to worry about anyone getting near our cave until we come back. Let's go. Our destination lies not much farther. After about 5 more minutes of walking, we finally come to a halt. The area we stopped in is full of fallen trees, similar to the one where we fought yesterday. Except this time there are no bodies. However, there's clearly been a big battle here. Perhaps even the battle that charged up my stat device when we're going to sleep. I can still feel the traces of leftover magic resonating strongly in the air around me. What I wanted to bring you. Please tell me what you can tell by studying the magic in this place. As I concentrate on the nature of the magic around me, I start sensing strong traces of elemental magic. It seems there's been at least one elementalist battling here. I tell her, yes, but can you tell which element the caster was using? I try to focus even further. It's, not sure how to describe it. It doesn't seem to be any of the 4 traditional elements. If I were to put it into words, I'd say it would be electric in nature. Kate's face slowly lights up when she hears my words. This is the first time I've seen her smile, even if only slightly, ever since we first met. Thank you, Stillberry. You've really been a great help. Her reaction took me by surprise. Wow, this is the first time I see this side of you. I didn't know you could actually be nice. What's that supposed to mean? I just meant to say... So I needed more premonition and hearing, okay. I just meant to say that you're usually a lot more... Before I get to finish my sentence, a dart comes out of nowhere and hits Kate in her left shoulder, making her drop to one knee. I'm alright, Kate says, although she's clearly lying. She's breathing heavily and seems to be struggling to keep her consciousness. I can hear a man laugh from behind the trees. His voice is high-pitched and could be easily mistaken for that of a woman if you weren't paying attention. As expected of a banshee, the man shouts, even an expensive sleep dart such as this is not enough to bring you down, but you're barely standing. The outcome of this battle is clear. Surrender now, and we'll show you mercy. We'll grant you and the human companion a quick and painless death. Yet another enemy who doesn't believe I'm Stillwater. I'm starting to doubt that this bluff was a good idea after all. Is this a joke? Says Kate, trying to be menacing, but barely managing to articulate her words. I can sense that there's at least 100 of you hiding behind the trees all around us, and yet none of you are mages. Do you seriously think you can win against mages by outnumbering them? Mages are no gods. They bleed just like the rest of us. If they bleed, they can be killed, and so can you. After he finishes his phrase, he blows a very loud horn which drowns out all the other sounds in the woods, and suddenly a rain of crossbows come flying towards us from every direction. Kate quickly makes an ice dome around us to block their shots. Barry, she says, you need to listen to me closely because I can't hold this dome for much longer. I need you to go back to our camp as fast as you can and call Darren. There's no way we can win this fight otherwise. As she speaks, one of Kate's eyes is twitching and there's sweat dripping all over her face. You can't be serious. You'll never survive for that long. You're barely even keeping yourself awake. I'll manage. I've been in far worse situations and made it out alive. Plus, even if I get injured, Darren can heal me when the fight is over. Now hurry up. Time is not on our side. Fine. I hesitate, but I decide to go with Kate's plan. Trying to fight 100 armed men by myself would be suicidal. Don't do anything stupid. I tell Kate as I head out of her ice dome. Just try to stay alive until I get back. As I reach the trees, Kate shouts after me, Wait, I forgot to tell you! The loud horn drowns out the sound of her voice as she is forced to close back her dome to defend from all the incoming crossbow bolts. I'm not sure she's realized I didn't hear all of that, but there's no more time to stand here and wait. I manage to quickly run past 2 of the armed men while they are focused on Kate. I keep running without looking back, straight towards our cave. Once I get closer, though, I start feeling a powerful urge to turn the other way. Of course, Kate's barrier. I'd completely forgotten about it in my rush to get out of that battlefield. Was this what Kate was trying to warn me about? I desperately try to keep going the right way, but without even realizing it, I always end up turning back. After running back and forth a few times, I suddenly feel a sharp pain in my chest. I realize I've been shot. One of the men that attacked us must have managed to catch up with me while I was wasting my time here, running around in circles before I even get a chance to turn around. I got shot 2 more times. And I fall to the ground. My consciousness slowly fades away. Okay, so we killed Barry again. Let's try that again. That's not what I wanted. Okay. So we wanted that one. We need another toughness. 2 observations. Maybe 2 hearing. Maybe. Okay. So next time we'll do a premonition. Let's see, we have 2 toughness, 2 hearing, 2 observation. That should be good. Now I just gotta get back to where we were. As we speak, I suddenly hear a voice far behind me. What are you waiting for? Shoot her! I turned back immediately, trying to identify the source of the sound. Whoever was talking must be hiding behind the trees, but it's too dark to see them clearly. What happened? Asked Kate. What are you looking for? Before I get a chance to react, a dart hits Kate in her left shoulder. Okay. Okay, so we killed him again. Load game again. Sure. Invest points now. One there. Try it this way, maybe? What, baby?
I right here.
Okay. Okay. As we speak, I suddenly hear a voice far behind me. What are you waiting for? Shoot her! I turn back immediately, trying to identify the source of the sound. As I look towards the forest, I spot two shadowy figures hiding behind one of the trees. One of them seems to be holding a crossbow, and it's aimed right at Kate. What happened? Asked Kate. What are you looking for? The man behind the tree shoots his crossbow, but I was waiting for it. Look out, I say as I push Kate out of the dart's way. You blundering buffoon, I can hear a man shout from behind the trees. His voice is high-pitched and could be easily mistaken for that of a woman if you weren't paying attention. How did you manage to miss that shot? Plan B! Go for Plan B now! Suddenly, all the trees around us get covered in a cloud of smoke. Between the lack of light, the distance, and the smoke screen, it's now almost impossible to tell where our enemies are hiding, except for the vague sense of their magic auras. Surrender, Banshee, says the man with the high-pitched voice. We have you surrounded. There's no way you can tell where we are through this thick smoke. If you surrender, it will grant you and your human companion the gift of a quick and painless death. Yet another enemy who doesn't believe I'm a Stillwater. I'm starting to doubt that the bluff was a good idea after all. Is this a joke, says Kate. I can sense that there's at least 100 of you hiding behind the trees all around us, and yet none of you are mages. Do you seriously think you can win against mages by outnumbering them? Mages are not gods. They bleed just like the rest of us, and if they bleed, they can be killed, and so can you. After he finishes his phrase, he blows a very loud horn which drowns out all the other sounds in the woods, and suddenly a rain of crossbow bolts comes flying towards us from every direction. Kate quickly makes an ice dome around us to block their... Barry, can you see them through the smoke? I take a look through the semi-transparent ice dome and try to see if I can distinguish any figures through the distant smoke screen. It appears that even with all the unfavorable circumstances, I can still see our enemies clearly enough. This observation stat is truly amazing. Yes, I can see them clear as crystal. Good, then you will be my eyes. When I dismiss this dome, I want you to give me all their positions, and I'll take care of them while shielding you from many attacks. Hold on. I agree to go with her plan, and she dismisses her dome. There's one over there, right beneath that branch, I tell her. She sends a cone of ice his way and hits him in the chest. You've got him. There's one over there, right next to that tree. Which tree? That one. Which side? The left one. What's his height? Height? Measuring over mine is about 5'7", I guess. She sends another cone of ice, which goes right through his head. He's dead, all right. The next one is... This is taking too long, Kate interrupts me, while conjuring floating ice shields left and right to defend us from the onslaught to crossbows. I have an idea. She creates two huge fans made of ice right above the smoke screen on her left side and then starts moving by themselves and blowing the smoke away. It's working, she says, as she conjures a few more to deal with the remainder of the smoke. No, shouts the man with the high-pitched voice. Don't let her blow away the smoke. It's too late, though. There are already hundreds of ice blades forming in the air above Kate. She sends them flying all at once in all directions. The crossbowmen don't even know what hit them. They were dead before they got to lift their gaze. One last crossbowman who managed to survive the onslaught is now making a run towards us in a desperate attempt to get behind Kate and shoot her before she notices him. Kate remains unfazed, and she shoots an ice cone straight into his head, sending his corpse tumbling to the ground while his crossbow drops from his hands and lands a few feet behind me. After I pick up the crossbow, I see that an enormous hand made of ice is now holding their leader by the back of his tunic and dragging him towards us, while he's frantically struggling to break free. By the looks of his fancy garments, he appears to be some rich noble from one of the more prosperous cities of the West. That would explain how he could motivate so many people to follow him on his suicide mission. Let me go, I order you, in the name of the Duke of Bagleberry. Unhand me. The ice hand ignores him completely and throws him at our feet. As he sees us, the man lets out a squeak and jumps back. He trips over his own feet and lands on his rear. Please, please. His tone of voice has completely changed. He sounds like he's about to cry. He throws himself on my feet. I only wanted to become famous by winning the tournament. I'm sorry I attacked you. Please don't kill me. I have a lot of money. Here, you can take it. You can take it. Just spare my life, please. He throws a bag of golden coin at the ground, and he throws himself at my feet. This is quite a lot of money. I could easily live most of my life in luxury with just this amount. Oh... I don't know. Could attack us. With the way he's acting, I doubt he'll ever muster up the courage to attack us again. Very well, I'll take your money in exchange for your life. Now get out of my sight. I never want to see you again. You'll never see me again, I promise. He scrambles to his feet and starts to run away. Before he even takes his first step, however, a spike made of ice pops out of the ground and impales him through his chest. Why did he attempts to say before his head drops to the side and his expression goes blank. Kate, what did you do? I was trying to spare his life. And you did. Congratulations. Thanks to you, his lifespan was extended by 3 whole seconds. You should be proud. How could you do this? He was defenseless. He surrendered. Yes, and I offered him a quick and painless death. Isn't that what he said he'd give us if we surrendered? That doesn't mean we have to act like him. Kate sighs. Listen, Barry, she says, I didn't kill this man for petty revenge. I killed him because once he would have calmed down and he'd have started procuring himself a new army, and he would have likely made it his mission to hunt us down, so that he could take his petty revenge on us. This was visibly a very resourceful man. This was visibly a very resourceful man. It's not easy to convince a whole battalion of men to follow you to a certain doom. I highly doubt he was the kind of person to easily let go of a grudge either. And as I pointed out earlier, he most definitely didn't strike me as the merciful type. Don't you think we're in enough danger as it is without adding some enemies that are looking to kill us specifically? I didn't think of it that way. No, you didn't. Now come on, let's go back to our cave. We're done here. I take the bag of coins and follow Kate. That was a sleeping dart, you know. Kate tells me we're going to make our way back to camp. That dart you saved me from? I'm not sure what would have happened if you hadn't intervened. She stops for a little and then looks at me. That's twice I owe you now, Barry. Did you ever consider opening up a bank? I'll give that a thought after the end of the tournament. We spent the rest of our trip back in silence, but I didn't really find it awkward anymore. After all, we've been through this morning. A bit of quiet is more than welcome. Well, he survived. Oh, that was tough. Oop. I think he died like, what, 3 times that time? That says chapter 3, so we'll go ahead and save the game. And then we will get back to this later.